For many kids, the first day of school is exciting. They get to learn new things, meet new friends, and get a little bit of independence from mom and dad. But for one family in the 1940s, this day turned tragic. Let's talk about Jackie Theel, who was last seen on his first day of school over 75 years ago. Victor John Theel was born on February 15th, 1938, to dad Harold and mom Bernice. He had 14 siblings, some older and others younger. The Theel siblings grew up in Painesville, Minnesota, about 95 miles northwest of Minneapolis. In 2021, Painesville has a population of about 2,300 people, and based on what I've gathered in my research, it was about that size in the 1930s and 40s as well. Jackie's siblings were told that he was slow. It's not clear exactly what this means, whether he had some sort of developmental disability or how severe it would have been if he did. He wasn't allowed to run errands or do chores around the house like his brothers and sisters. His sister Annabelle described Jackie as quiet and a homebody. On Monday, September 4th, 1944, the United States celebrated Labor Day. The next day, September 5th, 6-year-old Jackie, along with many other students across the country, prepared for their first day of school. Jackie was reportedly so excited to start first grade, he couldn't eat breakfast that morning. Before her kids left, Bernice Theel gave Jackie a letter for his teacher, Mrs. Gladka, saying one of Jackie's older brothers would pick him up after school. Another source said 2 of his brothers, Tom and Denton, would be walking him home. It's not clear if Mrs. Gladka ever saw this letter, and when the half day was over at 11:30 a.m., Jackie was escorted out of the school in a group with all the other students. The group walked together for a while, during which time Mrs. Gladka asked Jackie twice if he knew his way home. He said yes both times and pointed, but as it would later be discovered, he pointed in the wrong direction. When the group split up, Jackie made his way to what I'm sure his teacher assumed was his house, but he never arrived. Jackie was supposed to be home by noon, but when noon came and went, Bernice Theel started to get worried. She called a few neighbors and friends to ask if they'd seen Jackie, but none of them had. Then she called the sheriff. Jackie's sister Annabelle, who was 16 at the time, thought her brother would be found quickly. After all, Painesville was a small town. How many places could he possibly be? And there were a few alleged sightings of Jackie that day. 2 witnesses, a married couple, reported seeing him on the side of a highway around 1 p.m. Then 2 local teenagers claimed they saw a boy matching Jackie's description getting into a car on that same highway around 4:45 p.m. Other witnesses reported seeing a young boy crying on the side of a road and near a church. Police were able to track down the driver of the car that Jackie allegedly got into that day. He turned out to be a soldier who was traveling with his brother, but it's not clear who this brother was or if anything else came of this lead. I've also seen speculation that the teenage witnesses who reported this 4:45 p.m. sighting actually might have seen it much earlier in the day. If it was actually early afternoon and they were supposed to be in school at that point, they may have lied about when they saw the car to avoid getting in trouble. Remember, Jackie got out of school at 11:30 a.m. because it was a half day for him, but I don't know if the older kids would have had a half day as well or if they would have had to stay the full day. In the following days, over 300 people turned up to search for Jackie. At least one source said the entire town was basically shut down as they looked. Bloodhounds and the Civil Air Patrol were also brought in to help, and a septic tank near Jackie's school was drained to see if he'd fallen in, but he wasn't there. The Bloodhounds offered what is possibly the most solid evidence here. They traced Jackie's scent from the school to a nearby river. I believe it was the Crow River. Then his scent led away to a ditch. The scent they picked up indicated that Jackie wasn't walking in the direction of his house. After the ditch, his scent stopped. By September 15th, about a week and a half after Jackie was last seen, police no longer believed he was in the Paynesville area and asked for help from other authorities across the state. At some point in the 1960s, Annabelle got a letter from her brother's former teacher. According to this letter, Mrs. Gladka had met a man on a Navy ship in California who gave his name as Jackie Theel and said he'd been adopted. This man reportedly resembled the missing Jackie Theel, at least what he might have looked like as an adult, but it was never confirmed that it was him. About 20 years later, there was another alleged sighting. A man entered a cafe in Paynesville, saying his last name was Theel and that he was looking for other family members in the area, reportedly unable to find them in the phone book. Annabelle and her younger brother Faye are skeptical of this story. There were still Theels in the area at the time, and according to them, this man should have been able to find them pretty easily. About 5 years after Jackie disappeared, his parents welcomed their final child, a daughter named Judy. Judy grew up hearing about her younger brother who went missing, but obviously never got to meet him. Because Jackie had been wearing a sailor suit when he went missing, Bernice Theel wouldn't let any of her other children wear sailor suits from then on. Both of Jackie's parents died in the 1990s without ever learning what happened to their son, but he does still have at least 2 siblings alive today who are still looking for him. Unfortunately, the police records on Jackie's case are no longer available. Most sources said the police records only go back as far as the 1960s. Another source said they were destroyed in a fire. So, what happened to Jackie Theel? Let's talk theories. The first theory is that Jackie succumbed to the elements. There has been speculation that he either drowned or got lost in the woods. Some online speculators thought it was strange that Jackie was reportedly spotted so many times around town, yet he was never actually found. Were these boys not actually Jackie, or was it Jackie because he was never found again because he got lost somewhere and his remains have never been found? The next theory is that Jackie's parents were involved. There's not much solid evidence of this from what I could find, but considering how many children are killed by their parents, it's not surprising that people would wonder about this. Bones were found in a well on the family's property at one point, but they were later proven to be animal bones. There were also rumors that the Theels sold their son, but his siblings don't believe this. According to them, if their parents really wanted or needed money that badly, they could have sold a lot more children. The next theory is that Jackie's teacher, Mrs. Gladka, was involved. I haven't seen this brought up in too many places, but I thought it was interesting enough to share. A web sleuth user who goes by the username punklove was extremely skeptical of Mrs. Gladka's story and thought it was an awfully big coincidence that the last person to see him also happened to run into someone who might be him 20 years later and hundreds of miles away. The user also found it odd that the teacher found out a stranger's real name and the fact that he was adopted over the course of what was presumably a short conversation. They also noted that Mrs. Gladka didn't try harder to stop this man and probe him further if she believed he was a missing person. This user believes Mrs. Gladka may have been lying either about the day of Jackie's disappearance or about the alleged sighting years later. On a somewhat related note, Annabelle and Faye think their parents blame Mrs. Gladka for Jackie's disappearance since she let him walk home by himself when he wasn't supposed to. The next theory is that Jackie was kidnapped. Web sleuth users have speculated that he was taken by a migrant, a transient, or a sexual predator. There was also an early theory that he was kidnapped for ransom, but this was debunked by the sheriff at the time because the family wasn't particularly wealthy. Jackie's loved ones think he got lost on his way home and was picked up by a stranger. There has been a lot of speculation that he was taken by a soldier, a theory that was likely fueled by things like the alleged Navy ship sighting and soldier driver. At the time, soldiers in the Army could be discharged if they had a dependent. Did a soldier want to get out of his duties and use Jackie to do so? There has also been speculation that if this theory is true, Jackie might have grown up thinking he was legally adopted. If he goes by his birth name, he might be easy to find today. But of course, these are very big ifs. Victor John Theel was 6 years old when he was last seen in Paynesville, Minnesota on September 5th, 1944. Jackie is a white male, 3 feet 1 inch tall and 45 pounds at the time of his disappearance, with strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a blue navy suit, long pants with a safety pin replacing one of the back buttons, black shoes, and brown socks. At the time of his disappearance, he had a fresh scratch just below his right eye and a newly healed cut on the inside of one of his thumbs. He also has a scar on the back of his head. He went by the nickname Jackie and would be 83 years old if alive today. If you have any information about the disappearance of Jackie Theel, you can contact the Stearns County Sheriff's Office at 320-259-3700. There is a 2004 article in this case that says Jackie was never declared legally dead because he was a child and therefore had no assets. To me, this seems to imply that he is presumed dead, but he would be in his 80s now, so there is still that slight possibility. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.